Have you ever heard of a plant that's more protein-packed than an egg? You can grow without any soil, and has been intentionally hidden from us for decades. It sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, but it's completely real. This isn't just another health fad. This is a story about a nutritional powerhouse that could have changed the world, but was instead buried by powerful industries. Let's rewind to the 1960s. The world was on the brink of a food crisis. Scientists were racing to find a sustainable high-protein food source to feed a booming global population, and they found it. A tiny, aquatic fern called Azolla. This little plant is a true miracle of nature. It doubles its mass every 2 to 3 days, creating a lush green carpet on the water's surface. Imagine a food source that grows that fast, but its speed is just the beginning. The nutritional stats of Azolla are, when dried, it's over 25% protein. Let's put that into perspective. An egg is about 13% protein. Soybeans, often hailed as a protein king, sit at around 17%. Azolla crushes them both. Not only that, it's packed with essential amino acids, vitamins like A and B12, and vital minerals. It's basically a complete superfood floating on water. And here's the most incredible part. It doesn't need soil. Azolla grows on the surface of freshwater ponds, canals, even a bucket in your backyard. This means you could grow an incredibly rich source of protein without owning any farmland. It thrives in various climates and requires minimal care. This wasn't just a solution. It was a revolution. It promised food independence for communities all over the globe. A way to fight malnutrition with a plant anyone could grow. So if Azolla is so amazing, why isn't it in every supermarket? Why haven't we been eating it for the last 60 years? This is where the story takes a dark turn. The discovery of Azolla sent shockwaves through the established agricultural and livestock industries. Think about it. A free-floating plant that provides more protein than their products and can be grown by anyone for virtually free. It was a direct threat to their entire business model. The multi-billion-dollar industries built on selling protein from meat and eggs to soy and synthetic protein powders saw Azolla not as a gift to humanity, but as a catastrophic competitor. If people could grow their own superior protein source in their backyards, who would need to buy their products? The potential loss of profits was staggering. So, a quiet campaign began. Research funding for Azolla mysteriously dried up. Studies highlighting its benefits were downplayed or discredited. The narrative was shifted. It was labeled as just pond scum or an invasive weed, ignoring its immense nutritional value. The superplant that could have fed the world was intentionally forgotten. Buried under a mountain of corporate greed and disinformation, they chose profits over people, and for decades, they succeeded. But the truth can't stay hidden forever. Thanks to independent researchers and the power of the internet, the knowledge of Azolla is making a comeback. People are rediscovering this lost superplant and its incredible potential. Imagine a world where every community has a sustainable, free source of high-quality protein. It could reduce our reliance on industrial agriculture, lower our carbon footprint, and provide food security for millions. This isn't just about a plant. It's about reclaiming our right to healthy, sustainable food. The story of Azolla is a powerful reminder that sometimes the best solutions are found in nature, and we need to be wary of the powerful interests that try to hide them from us. The revolution that was started in the 60s is not over. It's just beginning. You can be part of it. Start by learning more, sharing this story, and asking why this incredible plant was ever hidden in the first place. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more hidden truths. What if I told you there's a superfood out there with more protein than an egg, gram for gram? A food so nutritious, so easy to grow, that it could potentially feed millions? And what if I told you that this incredible plant has been deliberately overlooked, almost buried, for decades? This isn't science fiction. This is the story of duckweed. You've probably seen it before, those tiny green leaves blanketing the surface of ponds and slow-moving streams. Most of us just walk right by, thinking it's nothing more than pond scum. But this humble plant is one of the most powerful, nutrient-dense foods on the planet. And the craziest part? It doesn't need any soil to grow. Let's break down why duckweed is such a game changer. First, the protein. Depending on the species, dried duckweed can be up to 45% protein. To put that in perspective, an egg is about 13% protein. Soybeans, often hailed as a protein powerhouse, sit at around 36%. Duckweed quietly beats them both. It contains all 9 essential amino acids, making it a complete protein, which is incredibly rare in the plant kingdom. Beyond protein, it's packed with vitamins and minerals. It's a fantastic source of vitamin A and B vitamins. It's also rich in omega-3 fatty acids, the same healthy fats you find in fish oil. Essentially, it's a multivitamin that grows on water. So, if duckweed is this amazing, why aren't we all eating it? Why isn't it in every supermarket? This is where the story gets complicated. For a long time, duckweed was primarily seen as animal feed, or a component for biofuel. The research and investment went into these industrial applications, not human consumption. Plus, there's a big hurdle, the ick factor. Convincing people to eat something that grows on stagnant water is a tough sell. There's also the safety aspect. Duckweed is a bioaccumulator, meaning it absorbs everything from its environment. If it grows in polluted water, it will soak up heavy metals and toxins, making it dangerous to eat. This is a major reason it's been forbidden, in a way not by law, but by practicality and safety concerns. You can't just scoop it out of any old pond. But now, things are changing. Scientists and entrepreneurs are developing controlled, clean environments to grow food-grade duckweed. Imagine vertical farms. Not for lettuce, but for this protein-packed plant, producing massive amounts of food with a tiny footprint. It doubles its mass every 24 to 48 hours. No soil, minimal water usage, and incredible speed. It's the definition of sustainable. Companies are already creating duckweed protein powders and adding it to smoothies and energy bars. In parts of Southeast Asia, it's a traditional food known as water eggs and is used in soups and salads. The potential is enormous. It could be a key to fighting malnutrition in developing countries and a sustainable protein source for all of us as the world's population grows. So, the next time you see that green blanket on a pond, don't just dismiss it. You're looking at a forgotten superfood, a powerhouse of nutrition that's finally making a comeback. The forbidden plant is stepping out of the shadows, and it might just change the way we think about food forever. Have you ever seen this green stuff blanketing a pond and thought, ew, pond scum? Well, what if I told you this so-called scum could be the future of food? This is duckweed, and it's not just for ducks. It's one of the fastest growing plants on Earth, and it is packed with an incredible amount of protein, up to 45% of its dry weight. That's more protein than soybeans. Imagine a food source that doubles its biomass every 16 to 48 hours. That's the power of duckweed. It grows so fast, it can be harvested daily, providing a consistent and reliable source of nutrition. So, what makes duckweed so special? Besides its rapid growth and high protein content, it's a powerhouse of sustainability. Unlike traditional crops that require huge amounts of land and fresh water, duckweed thrives on wastewater. That's right, it can actually clean polluted water by absorbing excess nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. It's like having a water treatment plant and a farm all in one. It doesn't need fertile soil, pesticides, or herbicides. We could potentially grow it vertically, in stacked systems, meaning a tiny footprint for a massive yield. This could revolutionize agriculture, especially in areas where land and clean water are scarce. It's a win-win for the environment and for our food security. Now you're probably thinking, okay, that's cool, but am I really going to eat something that grows in a pond? And what does it even taste like? Well, the taste is surprisingly neutral, often described as similar to watercress or spinach. This makes it incredibly versatile. It can be dried and ground into a high-protein flour for baking bread, pasta, or making protein shakes. It can be added fresh to salads, blended into smoothies, or used to create plant-based meat alternatives. Some innovative companies are already developing duckweed-based products, like protein bars and even vegan bacon. The culinary possibilities are just beginning to be explored. It's a blank canvas for chefs and food scientists to get creative. But if duckweed is so amazing, why aren't we all eating it already? Well, there are a few hurdles to overcome. The biggest challenge is scaling up production for human consumption. While it grows icily in the wild, cultivating it in a controlled, clean, and food-safe environment is another story. We need to ensure it's free from contaminants and heavy metals, especially if it's grown on wastewater. Then there's the issue of harvesting and processing. Skimming a tiny plant off the water's surface efficiently and drying it without losing its nutrients is a complex engineering problem. Finally, there's the ick factor. We need to get past the perception of duckweed as pond scum and rebrand it as a desirable, nutritious food. Public acceptance is key. Getting people excited to try a new green superfood is a major marketing challenge. So, what does the future hold for duckweed? Researchers and entrepreneurs are working hard to solve these challenges. They're developing new cultivation systems, refining harvesting techniques, and creating delicious products to win over consumers. Imagine a future where your morning smoothie gets a protein boost from duckweed grown locally, in a system that cleans water and reduces our carbon footprint. Duckweed won't replace all our food sources overnight, but it has the undeniable potential to be a major player in a more sustainable and secure food system. It's a tiny plant with a massive promise, a green solution that's been floating right under our noses this whole time. The next time you see a pond covered in green, you might just be looking at the superfood of tomorrow. Thanks for watching. What do you think? Would you try duckweed? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're curious about more future-forward food solutions, that does not make it a perfect answer, but it makes it a dangerous plant to underestimate. And maybe that is what bearing really looks like in the modern world. Not a literal conspiracy. Something quieter, something more common. A useful organism gets trapped between categories. Too wild to be mainstream food. Too edible to be dismissed. Too associated with dirty water to be celebrated. Too unconventional to attract easy trust. So it remains in the margins, waiting for a crisis large enough to make people curious again. If you care about hidden crops, forgotten ecologies, and the secret systems feeding the world, this is where you realize the real story is almost never about one plant. It is about how human attention works. what we choose to scale, what we ignore because it arrives in the wrong shape. And duckweed arrived in the wrong shape. Not as a proud stalk, as a whisper on water. But the future may reward exactly that kind of design. Because the age of agriculture we are entering will not look like the age we inherited. The next great crops may not be the tallest, the prettiest, or the most mythic. They may be the most efficient, the most adaptable, the least romantic. Plants that thrive in systems instead of landscapes. Plants that turn overlooked spaces into nutritional engines. Plants that can help reduce pressure on soil, land clearing, and conventional feed chains. Plants small enough to hide in plain sight. There is something almost humbling about that. For thousands of years, we mastered the spectacle of agriculture. We cut forests, redirected rivers, grew borders around fertility, measured civilization, ingrained mountains, and livestock herds. And all this time, one of the most astonishing growth machines on Earth was floating quietly at the edge of ponds. No deep roots, no grand trunk, no demand for admiration, just sunlight, water, nutrients, repetition, a green arithmetic so simple it feels like a secret. Of course, duckweed still faces real limits. It needs controlled cultivation for safe food use. It needs species selection. It needs processing systems. It needs public trust. It needs regulatory clarity and better commercialization. It is not going to replace every staple crop. It is not going to end hunger by itself. And any honest telling of this story has to say that clearly. But hidden does not mean useless. Overlooked does not mean minor. Sometimes a plant is buried not because it failed, but because our imagination did. We looked at a floating green skin and saw a mess. We should have seen a prototype, a living surface crop, a compact protein engine, a biological hint from evolution that food does not always need fields, fences, or soil beneath it. Maybe that is why duckweed feels less like an ordinary plant story and more like a message from the future that somehow arrived early. A future where food grows on water, where wastewater becomes resource instead of poison, where protein does not always come from vast fields of feed or the bodies of animals. Where resilience begins with learning to notice what we once scraped away. So the next time you pass a still pond covered in tiny green leaves, do not make the old mistake too quickly. Do not assume small means trivial. Do not assume familiar means understood. And do not assume that the plants shaping tomorrow will look anything like the crops that shaped yesterday. Because one of the most efficient edible plants on Earth does not tower over the landscape. It disappears into it. And maybe that was the only reason it stayed hidden for so long. Not because it lacked power. Because it never looked powerful at all. What do you think? Would you try duckweed? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you found this interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the future of food.